Hi, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our project with Chantal that is called Jornada She. So first I want to introduce the project, then I want to talk about the several phases we went through in the acceleration phase, and finally I want to talk about my learnings and difficulties. So about the project, so the theory of change is that if you provide adequate tools, then we can channel the energy of young people in Europe to invite them for protagonism in solutions instead of just begging for the favor of the politicians. So what tools are we talking about? Here, the solution is to use Edgar's methodology around the game Jornada She to encourage the mobilized youth to launch concrete projects for climate change. So in order to try to implement this project in Europe, we went through several phases. So the first phase was to actually start talking about the project and present it in Brazil. It happened like at the end of the immersion phase. So we presented our project to the final day of Amani in order to have feedbacks from our class, but we also presented our ideas to Jornada She Brazil in front of the team and in front of 3 persons, and then we waited for their answers, whether we can use their methodology or not. They said we can use their methodology, and they provided us support throughout our whole journey. So there was one guy that was actually, his job was dedicated to help us implementing the game in Europe, which was super nice. So then we went through the second phase of the project, which was to understand a little bit better the local context in Europe. I talked to several organizations through the phone or through face-to-face meetings, and it allowed me to understand a little bit how it worked in France. I was actually surprised that so many organizations were involved in climate mobilizations, and I also found that they had very different theory of change. So when I was talking to them, I actually had to adapt my discourse to their needs and to what they were believing, which was very interesting. And it helped me for the third phase, which was about finding partners, which was the most challenging phase for me. It was the phase I really wanted to focus on during the acceleration phase, because I know it's the one where where it's the most interesting for me to develop skills. So I already had a lot of context because of all the research I had done. So I just had to reach these contacts again and to actually talk to them about like a very concrete partnerships. I was very happy because 4 organizations were actually ready to create a partnerships with us. And one of them was Youth for Climate, which is actually like the main organization working on youth mobilization in France and in Europe more broadly. So it was super nice to have them as a partner. So then happened the 4th phase of the game, which was actually to launch it. And this was a very difficult phase because we delayed the launch of the game several times. And it was very hard to like coordinate on an international scale between France, Switzerland, and Brazil. And at the time when Switzerland and Brazil decided they were okay to launch the game, I was not ready anymore, and I didn't have any more time because I started a master and a job at the same time, and I know I have exams in a month and a half, so I cannot spend like the next month just organizing the game. So I had to delay again the launch of the game in France, and I still hope we can launch it in spring, but I will see how it works. So about my learnings, I have several learnings. So first, I learned a lot about how to approach partners, as I said, and then I learned also about international management, and I actually found that international coordination is first very hard to implement, and finally it's also very hard to find motivation for everyone when you're not working really with the others, but just like through messages or through phone calls, but it's also very hard to organize. It was a lot of learnings for me, and I'm really happy we went through all the different phases, and I hope I can launch it maybe later in France. Finally, I really want to say a big thanks to all Amani, because it was really nice to know that some people were supporting us through this whole project, and especially thanks to Marie and Rai in Brazil, Even if it was a little bit harder to keep in touch in the acceleration phase, I still knew you were there and you still helped us a lot through the beginning of the project. So I wanted to thank you a lot for this, and I really miss you. Bye.